Your lungs don't breathe without oxygen from the trees. Your nervous system depends on co-regulation, the calming presence of another human. Self-sufficiency sounds noble, but it's not how you were designed. Isolation breeds burnout. Connection creates resilience. When you carry everything alone, your perspective narrows, your load grows heavier, and shame whispers louder. But when you share the weight, when you say, "Can you sit with me in this?" when the burden reshapes, it becomes bearable. Strength is not isolation. Strength is integration. It's knowing you were never meant to hold it all by yourself. Picture this: a bridge built of many planks. If one plank tries to hold the entire load, it breaks. But together, joined side by side, the weight distributes. The bridge holds. That's how community works. That's how support works. You were never meant to be the lone plank. You were meant to be part of the bridge. So give yourself permission to lean, to call the friend, to text the mentor, to let a professional help hold what feels unholdable. And here's the hardest truth. Sometimes you need to stop carrying altogether and allow someone else to carry you. That is not defeat. That is wisdom. That is trust. Because the measure of your worth is not how much weight you can bear. It's how willing you are to stay connected while you walk. So let yourself be carried too. You don't have to hold it all alone. Not today. Not ever. Take a breath here. You've done the work of untangling the weight. You've honored your limits. You've named your need for support. Now carry that gentleness with you into the next hour, because the journey doesn't end here. At 2 p.m., Florence Knight will join you, bringing her steady, measured wisdom to help you navigate the delicate art of relationships with yourself and with others. You're not stepping out of this path, you're stepping forward, and you don't have to walk it alone. You're not crazy. You're overwhelmed. There's a difference. Your brain is trying to protect you. It spins scenarios, replays conversations, and digs up every worst-case outcome, not because it hates you, but because it wants to prepare you. It's working overtime to make sure you don't get blindsided. But that survival strategy, it's outdated. You're not in the same danger anymore. You don't need to overthink your way into safety. Right now, your brain doesn't need more data. It needs your body to tell it, we're okay. So take one breath, then another. Feel your seat. Feel your spine. Feel the space around you. You are not broken. You're overstimulated. And safety starts by slowing down the noise inside. Now that you've breathed, let's do some gentle sorting. Not every thought you think is true. Not every scenario your brain invents is rooted in reality. When the spiral begins, ask yourself, is this a fact or is this a fear? The fact your friend didn't text back today. The fear they're mad at you. The fact you missed a deadline. The fear, you're incompetent and they'll never trust you again. Facts are grounded, fears are slippery. And once you name the difference, you reclaim power. You are not your panic. You are not your worst case stories. You are the one asking the question. And that's where your clarity begins. Let's begin here. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're not falling behind because you're weak. You're overwhelmed, flooded, maxed out beyond capacity. And that state, it doesn't respond to self-shaming. It responds to gentleness, to clarity, to structure that honors your humanity. When your brain is drowning in too much, too many tabs open, too many responsibilities, too many shoulds screaming at once, your nervous system does what it must to survive. It shuts down. That shutdown is not failure. It's a flare, a signal that the load has exceeded the limit. So what do? We slow it down. We name the overwhelm. We give it structure. Make a list, yes, a simple one. Not to pressure yourself, but to place the chaos in plain view, so it's no longer swirling in the dark. Triage what's urgent, defer what's not, and give yourself permission to leave some things undone. Not everything is yours to carry, and not everything is meant to be solved today. Let relief come from knowing. It's not that you're lazy, it's that no one ever taught you how to organize your overload with compassion. But today, you start learning, not how to hustle harder, but how to be human, with grace. Before your mind can sharpen, your body must soften. That's the paradox. You can't force focus. In a field of internal danger, you can't think clearly when your nervous system is stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. Mental clarity is a byproduct of emotional safety. And safety isn't just a buzzword, it's a biological state. Ask yourself, what does safety feel like to me? Where do I feel safe in my day? In my relationships? In my inner dialogue? You won't find clear thoughts in a hostile inner monologue. You won't find creativity when you're bracing for the next collapse. So we start by building a soft space in your routine, in your breath, in the words you speak to yourself. Not every moment will feel safe, but some can. And those moments become anchors. Today, protect those anchors. They are not indulgent. They are essential. Because your clarity, your ability to make decisions, to act, to move, depends on how safe your system feels. It's not about pushing through. It's about softening in. That's where the clarity lives, and you're learning to meet it there. Thoughts are loud, but not every thought is true, and not everyone needs a front row seat in your awareness. Your brain is a storyteller. It spins narratives, fills gaps, and rehearses worst-case scenarios, like it's trying out for a tragedy. But you are not obligated to believe every story it tells. Just because a thought feels urgent doesn't mean it's accurate. Just because it screams doesn't mean it holds wisdom. You get to be the editor. You get to choose which thoughts get airtime and which ones get archived. Sometimes, clarity begins not by adding more knowledge, but by subtracting the noise. So today, notice the thought, name it, then ask, is this useful? Is this true? Is this kind? If it's not, you don't have to keep it. Let the fog pass. Your clarity doesn't shout. It waits patiently beneath the storm. You're not lazy. You're overloaded. There's a difference between a lack of discipline and a nervous system at capacity. You've been juggling invisible weights, decisions, emotional labor, expectations, past regrets, future planning. No wonder your brain feels like it's buffering. Mental fatigue is real, and it shows up as forgetfulness, irritability, indecision, or that blank stare at your to-do list. But the answer isn't to push harder. It's to pause, to close the tabs, to give your mind the gift of single tasking, stillness, and sleep. You don't recharge a phone by yelling at it. You plug it in. You wait. So do that for yourself. Give your mind a break before it breaks down. And when the guilt creeps in, remind yourself, rest is not a reward. It's a requirement. You made a mistake. Or maybe something didn't go the way you planned. But before you call it failure, pause. Reframe. What if this wasn't a collapse, but a course correction? What if it wasn't rejection, but redirection? Failure isn't the end. It's just a loud teacher. And feedback is how growth whispers. When something falls apart, ask yourself, what did I learn about me? What skill needs strengthening? What belief needs reworking? You're not being punished. You're being refined. And in that process, you're becoming more discerning, more grounded, more aware of what aligns. You don't have to spin the failure into gold. Just hold the lesson and let that be enough. You're smart, maybe too smart. Because when something hurts, you don't feel it. You analyze it. You break it down. You problem solve it into 1,000 emotional spreadsheets. But healing doesn't always happen in the brain. Sometimes it starts in the body, in breath, in presence, in silence. Not every wound needs a plan. Some need permission to be felt, to move through. You don't have to over-understand your pain before you're allowed to process it. You don't have to dissect it before you're allowed to cry. So today, step away from the need to outsmart your emotions. Instead, trust them, trace them, let them say what they came to say. Because sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do is stop thinking and start listening. You've been grading yourself on how well you hold it together while falling apart. You assess your worth by how productive you stay, even when your heart is heavy and your brain is fogged with fear. But listen, survival is not a performance, and pain is not a test. You don't get extra credit for suffering silently or pretending you're fine. When you're in crisis, your baseline shifts. The goal isn't perfection, it's preservation. So instead of asking, "Why am I not doing more?" ask, "What would compassion look like right now?" Maybe it's a deep breath instead of another task. Maybe it's stepping away instead of pushing through. Your crisis does not disqualify you from kindness. It invites it. Stop grading yourself on outdated expectations. You're not falling behind. You're moving through something, and that deserves grace. Sometimes clarity doesn't come from pushing through. It comes from pausing and beginning again on purpose. There's no shame in closing the laptop, canceling the meeting, taking the walk, and choosing a reset. Because clarity requires margin, and margin requires permission. Permission to step away so you can return stronger. It's not weakness to need a break. It's wisdom. When your thoughts are spiraling and your patience is thinning, the best move might not be to figure it out. It might be to breathe, to reset, to come back to yourself before trying to solve everything else. You're allowed to stop midstream and start again with more care. That reset, it might be the most productive thing you do all day, because it comes from self-awareness, not burnout. Give yourself that grace. Your clarity lives on the other side of permission. You've been trained to treat yourself like an assembly line. Input task, output result. No pause, no deviation. But your nervous system is not a machine. It's a living circuit board with limits, with rhythms, with needs. When you override those limits, the system doesn't just slow, it crashes. That's why you feel the shutdowns, the sudden exhaustion, the fog that won't lift. Compassion here isn't indulgence. It's maintenance. It's plugging your system back into a sustainable flow. Think of rest, breath, even gentle self-talk as a software patch. Without it, the errors multiply. With it, the system stabilizes. So, no, you don't have to push harder. You have to honor the wiring. That's how you keep working without burning out. The paradox is this: gentleness creates clarity. When you beat yourself forward, your focus fractures. Your mind narrows into survival mode. Your vision blurs under pressure. But when you soften, take a breath, ease the pace, give yourself a margin of grace, your brain relaxes. And a relaxed brain is a sharp brain. That's when solutions emerge that brute force could never find. That's when you notice the detail, the insight, the path forward. So the next time you say, "I don't have time to be gentle," remember, gentleness might be the fastest route to clarity you've got. Compassion isn't the opposite of productivity. It's the engine of it. Progress isn't always loud. It isn't always a breakthrough, a finished project, or a dramatic transformation. Sometimes it's washing the dishes when your body feels heavy. Sometimes it's sending one email instead of the 10 on your list. Sometimes it's just getting out of bed. Don't dismiss those moments. They are progress. They are proof that you kept moving through resistance. Tiny steps add up, brick by brick, inch by inch. They build momentum quietly until one day you look back and realize you crossed the distance. You don't need giant leaps. You need consistency wrapped in compassion. The myth of progress is that it should look like a straight line, always forward, always up. But the truth? Progress loops. It spirals. It pauses. It even doubles back before leaping ahead again. Healing, growth, clarity, none of them unfold neatly. So when you feel like you're circling, don't panic. Circling is still movement. Even revisiting old struggles can be a sign you're meeting them with new tools, new awareness. Redefine progress, not as perfection, but as participation. If you're still showing up, still leaning toward growth, still reaching for clarity, you're progressing even when it doesn't look like it. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed the lie that worth equals flawlessness, that to be valuable, you must never falter, never miss a step, never spill, never stumble. But perfection was never the assignment. The assignment was honesty. The assignment was growth. The assignment was learning how to stay kind to yourself while being undeniably human. Imperfection isn't evidence of failure. It's evidence of life, of being in process, of walking the messy road every single person is walking, whether they admit it or not. When you look at your mistakes, your missed deadlines, your moments of fumbling, you're tempted to translate them as a verdict. But they are not a verdict. They are data, information about what helps you thrive, what drains you, what still needs patience. And data is not judgment. It's guidance. It points you to adjustments, not shame. So release the pressure to be flawless. Release the exhausting chase of presenting yourself as polished when you're still unfolding. You are not here to impress perfection onto your story. You are here to live it, messy margins and all. And maybe the most radical act is to stop apologizing for the places that aren't tidy yet. Notice this. When have you felt closest to another human being? Was it when they appeared flawless? Or was it when they confessed, "I'm tired too"? When they admitted, "I don't know what I'm doing either"? Imperfection is where connection lives. It's the soft edge that allows another person to approach without fear of being measured. If you hide every crack, you also hide every doorway where compassion might enter. Your stumbles, your unpolished truths, your broken open moments. These are bridges. They invite others to say, "Me too," and that "me too" is the beginning of belonging. So when you're tempted to cover the flaws, ask yourself instead, what if this is the place someone else finds courage? What if my humanity is exactly what gives another person hope? Your imperfections don't diminish you. They humanize you. They make your story livable, approachable, real. Perfection isolates. Imperfection connects. And connection, not flawlessness, is what heals. So breathe. Drop the performance. Let the cracks stay visible, because it's in those cracks that the light has a chance to get in. We've been conditioned to equate silence with absence. If nothing's happening, we think nothing exists. If no words are spoken, we assume nothing is being said. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence. It is the raw ground where clarity takes root. Think of a pond after a storm. The surface churns with waves. Mud rises from the bottom. Everything feels unsettled. If you keep thrashing in that water, the mud only clouds more. But if you sit still long enough, the particles settle, the water clears, and suddenly you can see, straight to the bottom. That's what stillness does for your mind. It lets the noise sink. It lets the chaos disperse. It lets the deeper truths emerge, not because you forced them, but because you made space for them to surface. So stop shaming yourself for needing quiet. Quiet is not wasted time. It is the laboratory where your brain does its most profound experiments. The pause between notes is what makes the music. The space between breaths is what makes rest possible. Silence is not nothing. It is everything, waiting to be heard. We spend so much energy chasing clarity as if it were hiding in the next plan, the next spreadsheet, the next burst of productivity. But clarity rarely shows up in the frenzy. It arrives in the pause. Think of the last time an idea clicked suddenly, in the shower, on a walk, while staring out a window, not while grinding harder, but while your brain was given space to breathe. This is not coincidence. It's design. Your nervous system is wired to reveal insight only when it is not being chased. So, what does this mean for you? It means scheduling pauses with the same seriousness you schedule meetings. It means defending your stillness like you would defend your deadlines. Because without stillness, you don't get strategy. You get noise. The reset walk, the 2 minutes of closed eyes, the long inhale before you answer. These are not luxuries. They are clarity practices. Every pause you protect is a doorway through which new perspective enters. So if you feel lost, don't sprint harder. Stop. Be still. Wait for the answer. To walk quietly into the room. Clarity grows in stillness. And the stillness is always available. but only if you give yourself permission to enter it. You've been told a dangerous story. That strength means carrying everything by yourself. That asking for help is weakness. That leaning on others means you failed. But let's be honest. That story is unsustainable, and it's untrue. Even